I'm pretty sure we've all heard the devastating news surrounding Cade Cunningham. He and the Detroit Pistons have decided that it's best for him to go ahead and get that surgery for his shin injury, and it's going to keep him out for the remainder of the season. Now, the first thing I want to say is that I wish Cade Cunningham a healthy surgery and a very speedy recovery, because I genuinely enjoy watching him play the game of basketball. So I would love for him to come back when he's 100% healthy, so we can keep him in our beloved game. And also, this is just very misfortunate for Cade Cunningham as an individual. Looking at him this season, he was really on the right track, and I think he was developing at a very high rate. We look at his numbers so far this year, he's putting up 20 points per game to go along with 5+ assists and 5+ rebounds, so he's having an all-around effect on the game of basketball. And we also know he gives 100% effort on the defensive side of the ball as well. And before Cade Cunningham went down with this injury, he had a 4 to 5 game stretch where he was just dominating the game of basketball. He was averaging like 28+ points per game to go along with 8+ assists and 9+ rebounds. And what was so impressive about that stretch to me is that he was being highly efficient and he wasn't taking many 3-point shots. And if he was to keep playing at this level, putting up these types of numbers, and the Detroit Pistons started to win some more ball games, I have no doubt in my mind that Cade Cunningham would at least had some considerations for the All-Star game, and I think he would have had a good shot at making the team. But nonetheless, this is very unfortunate for Cade Cunningham. We wish him a very speedy recovery, and we also wish him a healthy surgery. And not only is this unfortunate for Cade as an individual, but this is also very unfortunate for the Detroit Pistons as a team and as a franchise. And I want to look at what the Detroit Pistons did this offseason. I don't think Dwayne Casey or Troy Weaver, I don't think they had any intentions of this being a down year for the Detroit Pistons. I don't think the goal of this year was to get another lottery pick in the upcoming NBA draft, but I think the goal for this season was to be more competitive, continue to develop our young talent, and potentially get a spot in the play-in tournament, make that 10th seed. Because we look at the moves that they made this offseason, I think they did a great job in the NBA draft, adding both Jalen Duren and Jaden Ivey. And then after the NBA draft, I think they made some solid trades to add some veteran depth to our team. We added Bojan Bogdanovic, who's been amazing so far for the Detroit Pistons. He's easily been our best player, and it's been fun watching him play. And also Alec Burks, who's been pretty great coming off the bench since he made his return for the Detroit Pistons. And this is why I think this injury is just terrible timing for both Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. And it really reminds me a lot of last season, because last year the Detroit Pistons were not fully healthy to start the season off, especially Cade Cunningham and Jeremy Grant, and we didn't see this team fully healthy until after the All-Star break. And the Detroit Pistons looked like a completely different team. They were playing so much better on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball, and we seen them get some wins against some pretty formidable opponents. And the win of the season last year for the Detroit Pistons, in my opinion, came on the road. They were playing the Boston Celtics in the TD Garden, and they were able to defeat those guys with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. All those guys were available for that game, and the young Detroit Pistons squad was able to go on the road and defeat them. So it's games like that that had me very excited for this upcoming season for the Detroit Pistons, and also what we did in the offseason. And we get to the beginning of this year, it's very similar to last year. This year we didn't have Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks to start the year, and we know how effective both of those guys can be when it comes to scoring the basketball. And then when those guys were cleared to play, Cade Cunningham and Isaiah Stewart goes down. And Isaiah Stewart, he's came back, and since he's come back, he's been looking very impressive. But Cade Cunningham, he's been ruled out for the season. And since Cade has been ruled out, I feel like a lot of guys have been playing so much better. Guys like Killian Hayes, Bogdanovic has been very consistent all year long. Alec Burks has been playing very solid. So it just leads me to think, if Cade Cunningham was here and this roster was fully healthy, will we see a turnaround in their play like we saw from last season? And I think we would, because coming into this season, we were very excited about this roster. roster, and we thought that they were going to be so much competitive. And I just think if Cade was playing right now, the Detroit Pistons, they definitely would have been able to make some noise. But with Cade being out, I feel like there's been more opportunity for other guys like Killian Hayes, who has been spectacular since he's been inserted into that starting role, and he's had the basketball in his hands a lot more, and I think he's just becoming so much more confident, which has always been the key for him. Now, me personally, I've always been a believer in the skill set of Killian Hayes, and I think what's been holding him down or holding him back since he's coming to the NBA is his mentality or his lack of aggression. And we say this all the time in the videos. We see a game where Killian Hayes is being ultra aggressive. He comes out and he gets 10 plus shots up, and then the next 2 games he's been very passive. He'll only have 4 to 5 shots, and he's not looking for his own shot at all. He's just looking for the shot of his teammates, and I don't think that's what's right for the development of Killian Hayes, because if we look back and look at the player that he was overseas when he played in Germany, they were calling him the Germany James Harden. He was a volume scorer. He played with the basketball in his hands a lot, and he had the ability to score in isolation, score in the pick and roll, get into the lane, and I think he still does have that ability. He's been showcasing it a lot more this season. And also, he just has the intangibles. Like, he's a 6'5" point guard, and he weighs 210 pounds. So he can dominate the game in so many different ways off his size alone. And then you add that skill set that he has. I think it's all about Killian Hayes starting to figure it out and put it together. And I think he's definitely taking steps towards doing that this season. And that's why I think Cade Cunningham being out with his injury is a blessing and a curse for the Pistons. Of course, it's a curse. Cade Cunningham is the franchise and the future of this team, and we want him out there furthering his development. But it's a blessing because since he's gone down, Killian Hayes has had the basketball in his hands a lot more, and he's been making some good things happen for the Detroit Pistons. And we look at his most recent game against the Charlotte Hornets, another spectacular outing for Killian Hayes. He finished the night with 25 points, 8 assists to go along with 7 rebounds. And the Killian Hayes I saw against the Hornets, that's the Killian Hayes that we drafted, being very confident, being very creative, and finding a bunch of different ways to score while also setting up his teammates. And my personal favorite move that I saw from Killian Hayes in that game is that it was a pick and roll situation. He was going left, looked like the defender tried to cheat over the screen. He did like a little hezzy, turned it into a behind the back, and then he pulled up for the 3-point shot. Plays like that make me very excited. He was able to get to his mid-range pull-up, and he also got to his floater a few times as well. And we gotta love that Killian Hayes was able to close this game out for the Pistons. In overtime, he hit a big-time 3. He rose up for a punk fake. Defender flew by him. He rose up and he drilled the 3-pointer. So Killian Hayes, I think he's been taking advantage of Cade Cunningham being out, and I think he's starting to develop into the player that we wanted him to be. And he doesn't even have to be a star. He can be a guy that comes off the bench and he can give us 12 to 15 points a night and around 4 to 7 assists, and I would be very content with that. So the Detroit Pistons, I don't really know what to expect for them for the rest of the season. We don't really know. We have a lot of young guys that can turn the corner. You never know how many ball games we might end up winning. Guys like Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, Killian Hayes. You never know when these guys might turn the corner and they might take their game of play to another level. And then Jalen Duren, he had a career night against the Charlotte Hornets as well, grabbing 19 rebounds, 3 blocks. He did it in 36 minutes, and he was able to stay out of foul trouble. So things like that is a good sign. And it's like, damn, I wish Cade Cunningham was here to play around all of this, and we could see just how great the Detroit Pistons is. But unfortunately, we're going to have to wait until next season. It's going to be a very long year, and we're just going to have to remain patient. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below how you feel about Cade Cunningham's injury, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.